So in Telugu, she asked the intruder, "Who are you and why are you here?" He didn't respond. She could clearly see the silhouette. The lights were turned off, and somehow she could tell that he wasn't facing her, but facing the window in the balcony. So she told him, "Turn around, answer me." And when he turned around, the lights in the room flicked on, and she saw him. It was Satya Sai Baba standing right there in the middle of our living room with a huge smile.
Sairam, dear listeners, welcome to Sai SOUL 100. Our guest today is Sister Hema Kodavatiganti, who is joining us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Sairam, Hema, welcome to Sai SOUL 100.
Sairam, thank you.
Sairam. So I know that you have been working with Sai SOUL 100 for a while, and you've been one of the content editors and along with few other young adults. So how has that journey been going for you?
Yes, thank you. So as one of the several young adults helping support Sai SOUL 100 initiative, as a content editor reviewing the episodes, what I've noticed is that we've had people share the most incredible stories. Some who've had direct interactions with Satya Sai Baba, such as interviews and conversations with him. And then there were others who never seen him, not even from a distance, but they feel just as connected. And each person brought something unique to the table. But the common thread was so clear to me that this journey isn't just about following a human being or a teacher. It's about discovering something within ourselves through the connection with the divine. And so now the tables have turned onto me. I've never expected it to happen, but I'm thankful for the chance to share a few parts of my own story.
Thank you, Hema. Please share your story.
Yeah, so my story starts with my parents. They both grew up in South India and were familiar with Shirdi Sai Baba. They heard of Satya Sai Baba, but they didn't think much of him at that time. So life just moved on. It wasn't until much later, when we, as a family, were in Australia, that Swami made his presence very clear in a way my parents couldn't ignore. So I'll keep this story short as possible, but still sharing the important details. So one early Thursday morning, my mom suddenly woke up to the sound of someone jiggling our apartment's front door handle, like someone was trying to break in. She was scared. She woke up my dad and then came to my room, told me to get into their bed, and then she carried my younger brother in her arms to their room. My dad checked the whole apartment. Every door, every window was locked from the inside. There was no one. But my mom was sure. She said, "Someone's coming, and not for like stealing or taking material things. He's coming for the children." And this occurrence didn't just happen once. For 7 days straight, every early morning between 3:45 and 4:15, the same shaking at the door happened. And each day, the force at the door grew stronger. And my mom was more and more sure that this was not a dream. It wasn't her imagination. And so on the 7th day, that second Thursday, she felt it. Whoever it was had finally entered the apartment. She could sense it. So she gathered every ounce of courage she had, walked into the living room, and confronted him. She believed that the intruder was a male. He would only reveal his physical presence to her, and that he spoke and understood Telugu, which is our mother tongue. So in Telugu, she asked the intruder, "Who are you and why are you here?" He didn't respond. She could clearly see the silhouette. the lights were turned off, and somehow she could tell that he wasn't facing her, but facing the window in the balcony. So she told him, "Turn around, answer me." And when he turned around, the lights in the room flicked on, and she saw him. It was Satya Sai Baba standing right there in the middle of our living room with a huge smile. And then something clicked in her memory. So years ago, she visited Puttaparthi with a friend of hers. As my mom was leaving the ashram, a man approached her and asked her for her name and address so she could receive newsletters. But not knowing what that was and not wanting to be contacted, she gave him a name and address that is not hers. So at the time, it seemed harmless, but then at that moment, and standing in front of Swami, she felt flooded with guilt. She cried. She's like, "Is this why are you here? To take my children because of what I did back then. You've been following me ever since. Like, please don't punish them for something that I did." And Swami just smiled. He didn't say anything. He gently gestured for her to come forward and take Pada Namaskar. The purpose of Pada Namaskar is to touch the feet of the Lord, or from a well-respected person, or from an elder, and to receive blessings. And so she did. She prostrated at his feet, and as her face touched his feet, she suddenly felt something brushing, crashing against her face. She opened her eyes and saw water flowing. So, looking to see where the water was coming from, she was stunned again to see that Satya Sai Baba had transformed into Shirdi Sai Baba, sitting on a rock with a stream of water flowing out of the rock. And again, with a smile, Shirdi Baba leaned forward and then touched her forehead, and that's when she woke up. So a few hours later, still trying to process all of this, she was making breakfast, and then there was a knock at the door. She told me to take my brother into the bedroom, and my dad opened the door. After a brief discussion by the door, a man and his wife walked in. The man introduced himself. He and his family live in Australia. He's an anesthesiologist and volunteers his time at Sri Sathya Sai Super Specialty Hospital in India. And then said that just the week before, he had been at Prashanti Nilayam, and during his visit, Swami had given him instructions to find a woman named Mrs. Ram in Australia and to deliver a book and some pictures to her. Now, here's the thing. My mom's name is not Ram, and that's not the name she gave years ago either. But recently, at that time, my dad decided to go by Ram, just a shortened version of his long first name. So the uncle and the auntie apparently have been searching for my mom for a whole week, starting that exact Thursday morning when my mom heard and felt like the jingling of the door. And then that uncle handed my mom a book titled Shirdi to Puttaparthi. My mom was speechless. She immediately understood the connection. And then he asked, "Where are the children?" That question hit her hard, but she brought us out. And then he said that the Satya Sai organization, the community, has something called Balavikas, and that my brother and I should attend Balavikas despite being a little younger than the rest of the kids. For those who may not know, Balavikas is basically like Sunday school. Kids learn about human values, spirituality, religions, and of course, Swami's teachings. Today, it's called SSE, which is short for Sai Spiritual Education. And I'll be using the term SSE as I continue with my stories. But from that day onward, there was no looking back. The uncle even organized bhajan at our tiny little apartment. Um, Everything was new to my parents, but they did their very best to adjust and become a part of the Sai Center and the community. There was one weekend we did not go to center. The phone rang. My mom answered, and it was the uncle asking if everything was okay since he didn't see us at center. She explained the reason why we were at home, and he said, "No worries. Please have the kids dressed. I'll be there soon to pick them up. You're welcome to come too, but my priority is the children." And from that point on, we never missed SSE class while we were in Australia. Uh, Even after we moved, my dad carried that dedication with him to find a center wherever we lived so that my brother and I could continue SSC. And so it became our foundation, a weekly habit. As the years went by, my parents' faith in Swami only deepened. To this day, they believe without a shred of doubt that Swami is God. And watching that kind of unwavering devotion taught me something important. Devotion isn't about perfection, it's about sincerity. For me, though my journey didn't start like that, it wasn't instant, wasn't crystal clear. I took my time, I had questions, like, how can someone in human form in modern day time be God? I stumbled with it, but always was fascinated with learning more about spirituality, theology, and philosophy. So fast forward a few years, my family and I ended up in New York City. And true to his promise, my dad found a Psi Center in Brooklyn. It was far from where we lived, but looking back, I really believe we were meant to be there. We didn't stay at the center for too long, but in that short time, it was a place of great transformation for me, building blocks, and I have some very fond memories from that time. I'm actually getting teary-eyed, but there's a quote I once came across that I resonate deeply with. The influence of a teacher can never be erased. Two people immediately come to mind, Auntie Mary and Uncle Raj. They were both SSC teachers, and they have made a lasting impression on me in total different ways. Auntie Mary was tiny, petite, and soft spoken, but she was fearless. She had this powerful, fierce kind of love, especially for kids in her community. She understood the neighborhood, she knew the streets, she saw what the kids were going through. Whether it was family struggles, poverty, mental health issues. And she just touched everyone with deep love, and it was always steady love. She didn't preach at them, she just loved them unconditionally, quietly, and consistently. She encouraged the kids to come to Sai Center so that they can get a glimpse of another way of life. Um, Everyone knew her, even the local community organizations were somehow connected to her. She was like a bridge between the Sai Center and the streets, between service and then also helping people survive. And I'll be honest, the work she did wasn't easy. A lot of what she dealt with involved trauma, pain, and even violence, things that I think most of us don't know how to grasp or handle. And she shared with us once that in the beginning, it was tough not to take people's behaviors personally. But what helped her stay centered was remembering Swami's teachings. Um, Offer all actions to God and do not become attached to the outcome. And that teaching became her anchor. That, of course, changed the way she showed up for everyone and for herself. Um, and one thing about her I will never forget is every weekend before Sai Center began, she would stand by the entrance and hug every single child who walked through the door. Every single one. It didn't matter the age, the race, the background. She saw them all with the same love. And if a child didn't want a hug, it was okay. She didn't pressure it. She didn't take it offense. From her, I learned that what it means to love with presence, to be a part of the world without getting caught up in it. And that's a tough balance, but she lived it. And then there was Uncle Raj, a very different kind of teacher, but just as powerful. Um, Uncle Raj taught through reflection and inquiry. He encouraged us to ask questions, not just about God, but about ourselves, our place in the world, and our inner values. There was one activity he led that stayed with me to this day. He placed a candle in front of us, each one of us, and lit it and said, just focus on the flame. So we sat there staring at the flickering light. Then he passed around sheets of paper and said, draw what you saw. What shape did the flame take for you? And so we did. And everyone's drawing looked a little different. Then he took away all the candles and left one in the center of the room and had us all sit in a circle. He said, look at this one flame. Take a moment and then draw it again. And we did. And again, every drawing looked different. And he asked, why do you think that is? Why does the flame look different to each of you? Silence. I remember raising my hand and saying, because the flame's always moving, it flickers. So it's hard to capture its real shape. He smiled and he said, exactly. That is also God. And I just sat there with it as a kid, kind of contemplating on it. He explained that God doesn't have one fixed shape. God has many and yet none. He went on to explain how religion is like that too. The rituals might be different, the names might change, but the source, the essence, it's the same. He said, if you can truly understand and live the 5 human values, love, peace, truth, right conduct, and nonviolence, then it doesn't matter what religion you follow. You've kind of understood the heart of spirituality. It's not about converting or convincing. It's about respecting others and respecting yourself. And those conversations shaped a lot of how I understand faith today. And so as a kid, I always really liked talking to Uncle Raj. Every time he spoke, I'd be completely pulled in. There was something about the way he explained things. It made me want to understand more. Even if I didn't get it right away, I knew there was something meaningful behind his words. So it wasn't until I got older, in my young adult years, that I really started diving into topics like theology and philosophy on my own. One day, I picked up a book on Hinduism. I learned that Hinduism is actually a colonized word. The original term is Sanatana Dharma, something we've heard Swami say many times. Anyway, the author of that book made a point that really shifted how I understood things. They explained that Hinduism isn't polytheistic, which is what I was taught, and I think we're all taught in school. It's not strictly monotheistic either. It's kind of both and neither. So it's what they explained it was like it's monotheistic, but with polymorphic expressions, which basically means one divine showing up in many forms. It's also henotheistic, where one deity might be worshipped as supreme, but there's still a recognition of other forms. And panentheistic, which means God exists in the universe and yet beyond. And that's a lot of labels, I know, but it felt like finally something made sense. It clicked. And somehow that research led me to Socrates, a well-known Greek philosopher. Learned about him in school, and from him I found my way to Plato, and then many other philosophers. That opened the door to something called Stoicism, which is a school of thought that's all about self-mastery and living in alignment with nature and truth. Plato, in particular, believed in what's called today metaphysical dualism. He believed that reality consists of two levels or concepts: the world of appearances, things that change, decay, or appear differently based on perspective, and then the world of ideas, unchanging, eternal truths. And so for Plato, the world we see it isn't real reality. It's just the appearance. So true reality is the world of ideas. But here's where it got really interesting for me. Even though Plato was a dualist on the surface, some of his ideas pointed towards something deeper, something closer to non-dualism. Later on, I came across a philosopher named Plotinus. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. He expanded on Plato's work and said, all of reality comes from one single, indescribable source. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, this is what Swami's been saying all along. All is one, all is God, all is divine. I know there are so many thinkers, philosophers, and spiritual teachers who've spoken about these truths, but this is just how my path unfolded. This is how I've come to understand God, not as some faraway being, but as a presence that's woven into everything. And right now, as a women's wing coordinator for Region 2, we're reading Volume 4 of Satyam Shivam Sundaram. And there's this one line from Chapter 2 that really stayed with me. It says, back in Vrindavan, Baba decided to initiate another great movement for teaching the wayward world that God is not a tyrant up in heaven, but a way of life. That one line, that's it for me. That's the whole thing. God is a way of life. I've never actually met Satya Sai Baba in person. I've never had conversation with him. He's never materialized anything for me, but still, he's been such a real presence in my life, not as a distant figure in a photo or a story, but as this quiet spiritual undercurrent that's always been there, shaping me in ways I couldn't have imagined. So I may not have had a direct moment with him, but I've had plenty of moments that led me back to him. I've met people who live with unshakable faith, like my parents who truly believe Swami is God. I've learned from my SSC teachers who guided me and many of their students. Like he was sitting there in the room, and then outside the Sai world, I've met so many others, people who may not even know who Sati Sai Baba is, but who live the values he taught every single day. Whether it's the words of Lord Krishna, who's helped me during difficult times, or the path walked by Lord Buddha, or the wisdom of all the other philosophers many years ago, they've all pointed me to the same truth. God isn't just someone you pray to. God is the values we live by, because God is a way of life. And right there, that's my Sai story, a story of unconditional love, my story of Sai Soul.
Sairam, Sister Hema, thank you so much for narrating this beautiful story. In fact, you said Swami is the spiritual undercurrent. Now you say that, and you know that Swami has always been with you as that undercurrent, right? Or this way of life. But your journey started way back, even with your parents, your mother protecting her children from this somebody who's going to take the children or wanting the children. It's funny though, because ultimately the couple who had come to your home with the message from Swami had taken you to SSE, right? So Swami did come and take you and took you to SSE, right?
Exactly.
Because at that time, when the couple said, or the gentleman, that uncle said, if you're not able to come to your parents, that's okay. I'll take your children.
Yes.
Right? So essentially, SSE is where you needed to be. And through that, Swami brought you to Brooklyn in New York and had amazing SSE gurus or SSE teachers who guided you, showed you what love is and how to live Swami's teachings and Swami's messages. Just by provoking or making you think, question, right? But with that all surrounding love. And it made you question, made you ask, made you go in search for what is this? And then you found out that Hinduism is actually a way of life. Hinduism is not it's not a religion, it's a way of life, Sanatana Dharma. And Swami kept on saying, Swami, Sanatana Dharma, that's the way of life, right? And in your search through all of the philosophers, you've come back home to the same place where Swami started you with, is that I am your undercurrent, I am your way of life, which is basically his teachings, right? We have heard Swami says that I don't have to be in my physical form for you to see God. All you have to do is follow my teachings, right? And you will find God, and that's what's happening right here. So it's a very insightful, very powerful message for all of us to take in a day, in times when Swami is not in his physical form. We are coming towards his 100th birthday, right?
Yes.
And for us to recognize going forward, we don't have to see Swami in his physical form. His teachings are our way of life. So thank you so much for coming to Sai Soul 100 and sharing your story.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, dear listeners, thank you for listening to Sai Soul 100 with Sister Hema Kodavatiganti. I'm Prabha Swaminathan. Until next time, Jai Sairam.